Just what do you understand by all of that? I mean, let's begin from there. I mean, when you hear climate change, the world is getting warmer, what does it mean to you? I mean, many people don't really understand these things.
Well, if they watch that clip, they'll begin to understand.
It's one thing to see. It's another thing, okay, so what's this got to do with me? How does this affect me?
Well, those were people's houses.
Yes. It's flood.
So it could be your house.
It's flood.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is that how is that climate change? What's the climate that is changing?
What is causing this kind of flood that they say we haven't seen in over 1,000 years?
Those are the issues. You talk for a living. So let's speak with those who have been at this for a while. Let's do ladies first, as I usually like to do. Brink is National Coordinator, Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
We also have Ambassador Ayo Olukomi, who is DG Nasima, but he is former acting permanent representative to the United Nations Environment Program. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we also have Solomon Adefolu, who is lead climate change program, Nigeria Conservation Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Madam, you heard what I said first. To many people, climate change is just one of those things they say. And to a large extent, many, I dare say, don't even understand what it means. Do you think we're even ebbing towards educating people or along the line of what climate change really means?
Thank you very much again for having me. And I will just start by saying, from where you ended about education, I think we need to do more. There's so much that needs to be done to educate people. But what I used to tell people is that you don't even need scientific proof now to know that the environment is changing. Yeah. Gone were the days when, there was a time in one of the offices where I worked, you see the pictures of Lagos State in the 60s, Lagos State in the 50s, and you see trees all over, you see all the good green scenery and all that. But they're no longer there. Then, of course, we know that the carbon dioxide that we breathe out is what the plants take in. The trees are no longer there. There are places in the communities you go to before, you just sit under the tree and you enjoy the ambience of that environment. They are no longer there. Now you go out, before, even in your house, you keep on fanning yourself and looking for all that. These are all signs of the changing climate.
I can imagine someone saying,
These are exactly.
Sometimes a number of people would probably tell you, no, it's either,
remote control.
The devil is, taking these things are spiritual. We don't have anything, and then in some cases they will say it is because government is not doing, what it's supposed to do.
The enemy is at work.
What are they? Yes, the enemy is at work. So that's why I'm talking about that education,
yes,
because
exactly.
These things are is the enemies. The flood. Hey, we've been working all year round, and the flood came and carted away all of our harvest. It's the enemy. It is not them.
Okay, I will address it also from the issue of the enemy, because even in the Bible that I believe in, the Bible says keep it. God says keep it and tend it. He did not say keep it and destroy it. That's what he said in the book of Genesis. So if he says keep it and tend it, are we keeping it and tending it? The traditional belief of people is that if I cut down trees, the natural resources are infinite. They won't finish. I will just go and collect and collect and collect. But now we know that it's no longer the case. So people just, like you said, and I agree with you, people just need, I know that many people know. Number one is that, do they think really deep to what is causing this? Or are they really giving themselves out to find out what is causing this and then knowing what can I do on my path to do something about it?
Okay.
Well, with regards to government, we know that we have experts who are working with government and who know what to do. But do we have the political will to be able to do what is necessary for us.
This political will again.
Okay, Solomon, in days gone by, we thought that these things were happening to us because we were not doing enough. Not enough education, not enough awareness. But even in other climes where they've been talking about climate change and there is increased awareness of it, we also see all kinds of things happening. We see floods in Germany like they have not seen in hundreds of years. We see fires in the United States of America. So, what are we blaming ourselves for?
Okay, thank you very much. The very good question, and I think we need to look at it from going back into the IPCC report. This is a United Nations working group that addresses what is the state of climate change in the entire world. You mentioned the world. And the way the climate system works, it works all around the world, not only in Nigeria, not only in Europe, not only... So whatever happens in Nigeria also impact or destroy whatever happens outside of Nigeria. So since it is the same climate change space that we're working with. So what I want to say is that the real cause of this is the greenhouse gas emission. And like she mentioned, the CO2 level is increasing. It's increasing day by day because of human-induced activity, human action that we know and that we have consistently failed to reduce.
Mr. Adefolu, you know, the last time I was in chemistry class was many years ago. So kindly...
break it down.
Yes. So she did that actually. And
CO2.
Okay, carbon dioxide.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So that's where you want me to go to. So the carbon dioxide is increasing daily, and we are not working to reduce this.
The last I heard, I understand. I breathe in oxygen. I breathe out
Carbon dioxide.
That carbon dioxide.
Yes.
So I should stop breathing?
No, it's not about you.
I'm trying to, so that we can really get people to understand. Many people, I mean, Ambassador would agree with me, are in top positions, well educated and all of that. But all these things, this is very Latin.
Yeah.
Okay, so in simple terms, the chief cause of climate change is the greenhouse gas emission that is in the atmosphere. And the chief of
No, relax, please. Greenhouse emissions.
Yes.
Break it down.
Okay.
Don't break the glass, though.
Okay, these are gases that are within the atmosphere that are warming and keeping us to be warm.
Okay.
Yes. And these gases are either negative or positive. They do positive things or negative things. In the terms of positivity, these gases are really available everywhere, and they are also helping to kind of normalize the warming that is happening within the atmosphere. However, because if these gases are not there, the atmosphere will be so cold. The earth will be so cold. In fact, in about minus 18 degrees Celsius. That is how cold we're going to be. So, but what these gases are doing for us is to help us to keep warm on this earth.
I'm sorry, there are so many issues to look at and so little time. Okay. Ambassador, is there any way, since you were permanent representative to the United Nations on the Environment Program, is there any way in which we as a people, through government, have let down our guards? Especially, I'm talking about Nigeria now. I know it's a global phenomenon, but is there anything we could have done better that we were doing and we stopped doing?
Well, thank you very much, and it's nice to be here again. First, let me say that the entire discussion we're having is within the framework of the UNFCCC, that the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And why do we have what has happened? Why do we have this initiative as far as the entire international community is concerned? Science has helped us. People went to outer space and saw our world from outer space, and so changes were taking place. So the international community got together and said, we must do something about it. And then there were documentary evidences of disasters, which was traced to that. And that was why we will now have the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is the framework convention. So it's not only just Nigeria that is at fault, it's the entire human race. And that was why we all went to the United Nations. I served in New York at the UN, and I was there when the first report of the World Commission on Environment and Development was presented. And then subsequently we went to Rio for the Rio Earth Summit, where that convention came. So it's everybody, the entire human race, everybody. And that's why we set up this convention, as well as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that comes out with this report, until this report of Code Red now say, hey, all of us, the entire human race, we are dropping the ball. There is disaster ahead. Let us do something. I think it is. And we don't need to go far away. You saw the flood in Germany, right up there, the German economy, which is the train for Europe.
Yeah.
We saw fires. I served as High Commissioner in Australia in the past, before this assignment. You saw the fire all over the place. You saw fire in Turkey, you saw fire in Greece, you saw fire in Tunisia, all over the place. These are clear documentary evidence that all of us across the world are at fault. We must do something. And of course, at home in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Now I come from the perspective of the business, because I serve as DG Nasima. We now also have the Chambers Coalition on Climate itself. But don't forget that from the beginning, when the discussion was on, the businesses were invited, because the issue which Solomon raised, as well as GSG, as well as Mrs. Alabamishi also raised, largely comes from the production pattern. How business, what kind of things businesses are doing that leads up to pollution. So that's why business is very important in this particular area. And at the beginning, when the convention itself was adopted, the businesses were part of the discussion. Please come up with a more sustainable development pattern of production to reduce the gas which you spoke about. Okay. And that's why, of course, at the national level, if we now come down, and that's why the businesses themselves, as the chambers of commerce, the respective businesses in our country, of course, are now part and parcel of that discussion in terms of how can they. But the most important thing is how to assist businesses to be involved in a production pattern that will be sustainable, that will reduce.
What then is the job of government? Isn't government supposed to find a way to compel businesses to do the needful?
Well, yes, government, of course, provides the general framework in terms of policy, normative issues, laws and regulations. Take, for example, now, if you want to start a factory, now you have to go and get an environmental impact assessment before you can start. What it means that, okay, I want to start producing pure water, or I want to start producing bottles, I want to start producing this. Before I am given the permission, or I want to set up a refinery to be able to produce, so that the prices of petroleum can be, affordable to the pocket. I have to go and get an environmental impact assessment report, approval.
But
so that is one thing.
Does it happen? Do all businesses get it? That's another thing.
If you look at the newspapers, generally, people will say that I want to do this. This is the environmental impact. This is what I want to do. So members of the public are supposed to come, and of course, compulsorily, you must get it before you set up the factory.
Ambassador, I still have questions around whether or not, but let's just bring in Mr. Majakodume very quickly. Desmond Majakodume is founder Lufasi Park. He also joins in this conversation. Thanks for joining us this morning. You are what Alera will call environment ambassador in Nigeria. I'm just trying for us to even understand the basics, the nitty-gritties of these things. From your experience over the years, do you think we are making progress in terms of letting people know exactly what we're dealing with here?
Not at all. Not at all. And that's why the Secretary General of the United Nations himself said when this report came out that he's declaring code red. In diplomatic terms, that means you are almost at a state of war. He said that this is an emergency. And one of the most salient factors that emanated from that report was that no matter what we do now, the oceans will rise by half a meter within the next 10 to 20 years. As the ambassador in the studio rightly pointed out, because of the space technology available, we have been able to measure very, very accurately what is going on with our climate, what is going on with the environment, and it is alarming the United Nations International Panel for Climate Change because their last report did not anticipate that the damage would be coming on this quickly. We are on the brink of a disaster. Secretary General United Nations said in December that mankind is waging war against nature, and this is suicidal.
Okay.
That's the wording that they use because nature fights back, and that's exactly what she's doing. But the reality is, our problem is not so much the climate change. That's a manifestation. Our problem is not so much the pollution, which is what is causing the climate change. Millions and millions of tons of toxic gases going into the atmosphere, which we've known are deadly, which we've known are upsetting the wonderful systems of the atmosphere that makes this earth livable. That's not the real problem. The problem is us, our greed, our selfishness. We've known that this poison is going to do bad things. We know it's even killing people. It's killed more people than COVID in 1 year. And over the last years, it's been killing. But we continued and continued because we were being driven relentlessly by putting profit over people and planet.
Well, let's begin to look forward because, I mean, as I said, we really don't have much time on this conversation. Decrypt it. I mean, you've talked about the United Nations and you've talked about our greed and all of that. How does the average Nigerian contribute to this problem? So we know, and then we might be able to do something about it.
Thank you very, very, very much. Well, luckily, we have a democratic system. We need to have adaptation. Hundreds and hundreds of billions of naira now need to be deployed to the coastal area of Nigeria to protect places like Lagos, Port Harcourt, etc., from being flooded because the seas are rising. Also, this Green Wall program that is putting hundreds of millions of trees. Look, last year, our president promised to the United Nations that Nigeria would plant 25 million trees. We've only planted 5 million. So we need to demand from the civil servants, do your job. You are servants to the civilian society. Serve us more effectively. Do your job. Deploy fantastic amounts of money to re-greening. Greening, greening, greening. Trees, trees, trees will help. Everybody should get a little bit of green in their compound, even if it's just in one little bottle. Green, green, green. Shebi, that's the color of our flag. Green, green, green will help solve the problem.
Okay.
And Alero, don't worry about blanket in Hamatan anymore. Forget that one.
It's gone forever. When Babatunde Fashola was governor in Lagos State,
Wow.
I'm sure you were aware that his nickname was Baba Flower. And not a lot of Nigerians were endeared to him because of his plant a tree policy, making Lagos green. But that policy seems to have been jettisoned. So you spoke specifically about Lagos State earlier, which is why I'm taking you back to Lagos State. How much greenery do you see in Lagos? Because he spoke about greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide and where we get the oxygen that we breathe in from, which is what many people don't seem to understand. Please tell us all about that. Where do we get this oxygen from? And what are we going to do to ensure that we keep getting oxygen to breathe and be alive?
Thank you very much again. The gas, the oxygen that we're taking, we get it from the plants. And then the carbon dioxide that we breathe out, the plant take it. So that's just the simple balance of the equation. I was at a meeting 2 days ago, and I was like, because each time I'm interested in Lagos State and all these coastal communities, for example, there is a particular ecosystem we call wetlands. And Lagos State is majorly a wetland. And then before you know it, you have this buildings and companies springing up and converting the wetlands and just sand filling and sand filling. So I was asking NCF that day that, what is NCF doing, or what are we going to do about this? Because these wetlands, the ecosystem services that they are providing for us, it is enormous. You see, as far as even environmentalists are concerned, we are still yet able to exactly quantify what natural resources is giving us. And this is the reason why we have to let people continue to know that, look, the more you clear the lands, the less we have oxygen, the more we have carbon dioxide, and the more the earth's surface gets warmed. And that is why we are having these issues. Coming back to Fashola, honestly, we had a program we supported in Lagos State during the time of Fashola. It was not just Baba Flower. He was just, I could tell him, Baba Environment that time, because there was a LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, that we supported in 2012 with the Friends of the Environment. And after Fashola saw the results of this, another one, after Fashola saw the results of this, he declared Lagos State the year, in the year 2013, the year of adoption of LPG. And you will see that you hardly go to any restaurant in Lagos State now where they are using firewood. It was Fashola's when he saw the result of this work. And then he worked with some of these companies producing gas. That is why now you could see people buying gas in like 200 naira, 300 naira. Because one of the challenges that time was, will these communities be able to afford to buy these things? So I think if these policies and this knowledge, I wouldn't know how Fashola got. So I don't know whether we are not doing enough to, sell the story to the people in power or whatever. But if I can know how Fashola got, sold out to environment.
With ambassadors, look for me.
Honestly, I'm delighted that Lagos State is back, because they had a climate change series. Summit, the climate summit, the Lagos climate summit, because I also on the sideline also involved in it, and of course businesses were also invited. So I think after the small lull, I think they are back now, because Lagos State had, I think sometimes in May, they had a climate summit.
And even the tree planting as well.
So they are back on it now. But the most important aspect of it is to be consistent. And so.
Exactly.
But I'll come back also to the question and issues of, because at the end of the day, they say money naim be the heart of the matter, and that's why it should be a matter of the heart for us. In context of the ecological fund, and also the climate change fund in our country, we need to interrogate this. What is the situation as far as the climate change fund itself is concerned? Because we have a climate change department, there's a national policy on climate change. What is the situation now?
What does that policy say?
The policy, of course, elaborates what should be done as far as the climate change issue is concerned. It's not rocket science. It just took from the international programs. That's why we adapted it to a national policy to do all of the things which we're talking about: planting a tree, ensure that you reduce your carbon print. So there's a national plan, but we need to have it down to all the local government level.
Perhaps one of the
challenges. And then the funding
yes.
to also, because I come from the perspective of business, and I'm saying, NACIMA, the National Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, we're not just keeping an eye on it, we are also sensitizing chambers members across the country.
One of the challenges my apologies, yes, Ambassador. One of the challenges that I've said, and I tried to bring it up the other time, is the enforcement. Not every business would be happy to part, so to speak, with money that they can't really say, okay, if I invest this is what's going to come back to the bottom line.
Let me concretize the abstractions for you. As an SME, they say SMEs is the base, is national development in terms of enjoyment, giving job opportunities and things like that. So what has happened now is that there are international partnerships. I'll give you an example, that to reduce your carbon imprint, to reduce your use of generator, that it is possible to use alternative energy. So funds are there as an SME for you to be able to. And that's what we're saying, that the Climate Change Fund, the National Climate Change Fund, can do things like this. That, Ayo, this is your SME. this is, you can apply for this fund at a concessionally loan to change your generator and use green energy. Use alternative energy. Those are the practical things.
But there are those who believe that that's very expensive.
Yes, and solar and all of that. And that's why we're saying that it is possible using our ecological fund as well as maybe the climate change fund itself to encourage people. Mrs. Olubamiche spoke about the question of people now using gas. I was involved also in the LPG thing. You know, if you're traveling from Ife to Ilesha, I'm from Ilesha, you know, those Akara women, they were encouraging them at a particular to use gas. Don't use firewood. So if those, at that particular period, so if those women don't use firewood and they're using gas, that means we are moving towards concretizing the abstraction and ensuring that the mama put that used to use firewood has moved to use gas. So those are the things, those are the nitty-gritty. But government has a role. The businesses also, because the businesses are struggling, they must be encouraged to go along the path of sustainable development and to reduce the carbon imprint.
Ambassador,
yes.
This movement from fossil fuel, which is wood, to gas, maybe you can see that it's working in the urban centers. But like you said, in the rural area, on your way to Ilesha, for instance, how aware are those women and even men who work in the farms, for instance, who fry gari and all that? How aware are they of this need to change from using firewood to other sources of...
I was involved in the Urban Healing Rings Environment Program in Cross River State. You travel into those areas. And that's where the engagement with the local government is important. That's where it is to come to that particular level. It is possible to do that. I'm just giving you the example of traveling from Lagos through to Ibadan, you know, and you see those women selling all those things. At the end of the day, those are the rural dwellers as well. So it is possible to do this and take it down to those particular areas. But in close partnership, one, with the local government area, and also, I'll give the good example of, you know, there are city chambers all across Nigeria now. You have in Abeokuta, you have in Dremo, you have in Ota. If you go to Sokoto, you have. So the possibility of using chambers of commerce to preach this gospel and also demonstrate the possibility, if you're, for example, in Oron, local government area or chambers of commerce, we have to be very innovative.
Publicity costs money. Publicity costs money.
I think just to take him on that, just to add to some of the things he's been discussing, is the fact that there are other initiatives. It mustn't be liquefied natural gas. It can be clean cook stove, which are affordable at community level. There are a lot of initiatives. No, the kind of stove that does not use much of the fuel wood that you will use to cook food, and that use some kind of what we call briquettes, what we call sawdust, and all of that.
What about the use of kerosene?
The use of kerosene is still fossil. You're still using energy from crude oil. So it's
same
really,
as same result as the firewood.
And the fact that helping business to integrate, government has not really. There is a policy, like you mentioned, and government is also working on some or what we call nationally determined contribution, which they have just submitted to the UNFCCC last month. And they have a whole lot of commitment. Government of Nigeria committed on our behalf to reduce carbon emission by 20% on our own.
Question is how?
Now there are a lot of hows. There are a lot of hows in that document. If you have it, there are about 7 sectors: transportation, getting rapid bus transport system, using electric vehicles.
Cars.
There are electric vehicles that are being launched in some parts of Nigeria now. I saw it on TV.
We saw the one launched in Lagos.
So in terms of promoting this and subsidizing it is where we should be talking about.
I hope you have also factored in the cost. Don't answer the question. Mr. Olubamiche, perhaps there are some other solutions that people need to know, maybe that are more, how do I say this, down to earth.
Thank you very much. And that is where I come in, actually. the program that I coordinate in Nigeria, the Jeff Small Grants Program. The idea of the Small Grant Program is that let the people with the policy, with the whatever, let them continue. What can the grassroots people do? And that is where the Jeff Small Grants came in. We started in Nigeria in 2009, and up to date, we have supported over 170 community projects that has to do with environment. Community project. Lagos State is number 2 that has benefited. Lagos State, Cross River, and Benue State are the 3 highest states that have benefited from this project. One of them was the LPG I spoke about. And then when you were asking Ambassador about communities, how do they understand? Where you go to some communities, I was in a place in Benue State. These women, they use wheelbarrow to go and fetch water overnight. They go today, wait when they get to that community for the community that has the water to fetch their own. After they are done, then they will fetch and they will come back the next day. That is how bad it has been. So when you go to these communities, and then when you talk of firewood, people who will go to their backyard before and cut trees and then cook, now they travel kilometers before they get firewood. I hope you know that the popular afang leaf now that we eat in Nigeria is imported from Cameroon. That is how bad the forest. Yes. You will see truckload. I can give you the figure.
Imported afang.
Yes, we are importing afang to Nigeria now. So we had to support a project in Cross River where we train the communities how to and then to even plant it is also a little bit technical. So we had to go into that and train the communities how to.
Sorry, I'm really confused here.
To plant.
Afan.
Afan, yes.
The what?
Yes, the one we buy in the market. Afan.
Import.
Yes.
We are importing.
Yes.
We are importing to Nigeria now.
Okay.
Anyway,
so
Ambassador.
Sorry, Alero. There was something I also hear from the grapevine that you support a particular group of women to plant certain leaves for women.
Oh yes, thank you.
Wow. Certain leaves for
moi.
The
The moi moi leaf, the popular moi moi leaf now.
Yes.
You see, the world is actually embracing the fact that communities can also contribute to these things. We supported a project in 2018, 2019 to encourage the cultivation of this moi moi leaf. And you know, the idea of this moi moi, of encouraging them was that the cocoa farmers, they use chemicals to kill weeds. In the process of killing weeds, they were killing the moi moi leaves. And because of nylon, that people now, it's very easily, it's cheaper and all that, people tend to forget about moi moi leaf. So we try to encourage, and you know all the health effect of using polythene, nylon, both aesthetic and health and everything. So we supported that, and fortunately, the project actually won an international award called the UNDP Equator Award. And then we discovered that encouraging the planting of the moi moi leaf does not only give them the moi moi leaf. The snails, the mushrooms that have gone from these cocoa farms are now returning. So the effect is, the outcome is even beyond what we were initially going out to achieve. So these are some of the things, and then so we encourage the farmers, and now the project is even expanded. The Ministry of Environment, during the National Council on Environment, the one that was held in Kaduna about 2 years ago, they actually mandated all states that can plant the moi moi leaf to please begin to go. Because it's not just for us now to go back to using moi moi leaf, but also to address the health effect of using nylon and then the biodiversity.
Yeah, Desmond, it is clear that we can't leave government to do everything. In fact, it looks like we're going to get the biggest impact when everybody is doing their own little bit in their own little corner. What would you say Nigerians should be doing in their little corners now to try and alleviate this problem?
Well, Mrs. Olubameche has actually got the nail right on the head. We can start going back to what we've always been doing from time immemorial. and that is, producing our own food. We can have little gardens. That's one of the things we're doing at Lufasi Park with the local community, helping them to get snail production, little bit of aquaculture, and also planting vegetables. We have to go back to the land. Yes, and give it a lot more respect and regard, definitely. And well, another quick solution. Let's put Olubamishi, an ambassador, in charge of the ecology fund. I'm sure we'll see it.
Well, that sounds like I can't say all in favor say aye, because I'm not sure what I'll get. But ambassador,
make good use of it.
Definitely. But it's been a lot of talk.
Yeah.
The challenge, you said it earlier, is that of really walking the talk.
Yes.
As you said earlier, it's not that we don't know what to do. We know what to do. As a matter of fact, we know the right thing to do. My producer has just told me that we have one of the best climate change plans in the world. I don't even know, what that means. But do you think that those whose responsibility it is to execute the plan understand?
Well, I think the first thing we should accept and say is that we need a political buy-in at the highest level. This is key. This is very important.
Are you insinuating that there isn't a buy-in at this point? And we're attending all those
we need to
COP conferences?
A harder push. A harder push. We never had the Ministry of Environment before. The environment issue used to be in one small little corner of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. Then we went to Rio, and they showed us the documentary evidence. We came back home quickly. And as a result of the political buy-in, we created the Federal Ministry of Environment. It used to be FEPA, which is now NESRIA. So we created, that is an indication of the fact that we recognized it and we should do. So this is what we should also do as far as the entire issue of the national policy of the environment, the national policy and agenda as far as climate change itself is concerned, and as well as the issue of what do we do with the fund effectively. It is key. It is very. Now let me draw attention to the possibility that we can succeed as far as this is concerned. On the international level, we have the ozone layer, the Montreal Protocol. We were able to repair the damage because of the international cooperation as well as action at the national level. Now that we are having this now, is it possible for us to do? Yes, but we need effective leadership, committed leadership. And what does that mean? It means the institutional arrangement. At the federal level, the Federal Ministry of Environment, we need to have professionals. Because, I'm a 66-year-old man, retired about 5 years. When people like us leave the place, what happens? Sustainability, we must make sure that, because that is a very important aspect.
Which is why I asked that question about understanding.
Now, as far as businesses are concerned, the businesses are struggling, but efforts are being made to make sure that, look, business, take a long view of history. It is for your own interest, but they must be supported.
Okay.
That's why we talked about, one, the climate change fund itself, the ecological fund, which my brother, it's really good to see you, Dr. Majo Kudumi, again, we come a long way on this environment issue too as well. And that you can make effective use of the private sector in terms of how to push this agenda and have it more effectively across the board.
Are we run out of time?
Yeah, we're running out of time, actually.
Well, I just want to quickly ask Ambassador something regarding industry.
Yes.
Effluents from factories.
Yes. Oh, yes.
How is that going? Because it was a big topic about 2-3 years ago.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's still a big problem. It's still a big problem. And that's why, of course, within the organized private sector, Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, NASME, and all of us are also on this particular issue to make sure that we reduce that in terms of a sustainable production pattern, which will tackle question and issues of effluent.
Okay.
I think this is something which, of course, we have. And like I mentioned, the Chambers Coalition, Climate Coalition itself, COP26, is coming in Glasgow, and the International Chambers of Commerce itself is looking at this issue.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Adefolu, in 30 seconds, how do we integrate or begin to integrate climate change in our daily conversations so that the awareness and carry along can increase?
Yeah, so one thing that is very certain for me is faith. We need to integrate climate change into faith. Faith-based institutions are very key. Everybody in Nigeria believes in whatever the Pope says, whatever the Bishop and Pastor Gio and all of that. So we need to take it to that level because it's a do-or-die affair. Now, it has come to a point in time that we need to do something.
Essentially, you're saying it's as important as salvation.
Yes, it is salvation.
Okay. Well, there are so many other issues, and I'm pretty sure it's the same. Absolutely, it's the same for every faith, in the world, Nigeria in particular. But for now, we have to thank you very much all for being a part of our conversation this morning. Ibironke Olubamiche is National Coordinator, Global Environment Facilities Small Grants Program. Thank you very much for your time, Ambassador Ayolukoni. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Director General Nasima and former Acting Permanent Rep to the United Nations Environment Program. And we've also spoken with Mr. Solomon Adefolu, who is Lead Climate Change Program, Nigeria Conservation Foundation, as well as Desmond Majokodumi, founder, Lufasi Park. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Apostle.
For being a part of our conversation this morning.
Thank you very much.
The Sunrise continues after now with another interesting conversation. We'll be back.